Good morning, Lila.
Good morning. I'm sorry I have to be off camera this morning.
Oh, you're secretive today, huh? Oh, who's that? Jan. Good morning, Jan.
Hi, good morning.
How you doing?
I'm okay trying to get my iPad to work, so I might be logging in there in a little bit.
That's okay. Sometimes I'm flipping back and forth when my computer doesn't work, which is not
Updates.
ideal for me, but you know. All right. Well, um, I know Rami said he's going to be here. How are you guys doing? You guys are, well, except for Lila, the other three of you are pretty new. Like Christine, you moved over from Virginia, right? So you're technically not brand new, but you're just getting a restart.
Yeah, I didn't really do anything in Virginia because we were in the process of moving. So I pretty much got my license and that was pretty much it.
I get it. So
Yeah.
the Lila's been licensed for a while now, and she only has one deal left before. No, maybe two. You've done two with me, but one of them was a tiny land one. So she's done a couple deals with me and is getting closer to graduation than the rest of you. Um, Rami and Robert and Jeanne, I just plucked out of real estate school, and they all three were just licensed in November and are brand new. Um,
So I did just
yeah,
to
updates.
clarify, I did the condo and then the land listing was too small for the
Yeah.
mentor program. But then also the home in I had my buyer in Shayless. So it was
Oh,
two and
yeah.
then
So you do have two that we've completed and one that didn't count. So we've got one more left. That's
yeah.
right. Sorry, I have trouble keeping track sometimes.
That's okay.
Rami, you sent me practice documents today and they were super good for first timers, but would you be embarrassed if we went over them together?
I would not be embarrassed. No,
Okay,
I want to
that's why I
learn.
was asking if you were going to be here today rather than me spending all my time screenshotting. And
Be
Zach,
gentle, please.
oh, good, Zach's going to be here too because Zach just sent me documents
Be
to review
gentle.
also.
Hello.
Good morning. I just saw that you sent me documents. What did you send me to review?
That's for the legal description. I got it and I forgot to have I forgot to have it signed.
Cool. All right, so that should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let me. So we're going to keep working on writing an offer, but first we're going to uh, look over Rami's practice documents together because they're really good. He did a really good job, but the mistakes he made, I see a lot. So we're going to look at them
Wait,
together.
I have to jump to the Kickstart
Yep,
week at 9.
that's why we're doing that first too,
All right, sounds good.
because I know
Thank
that you and Robert are jumping to Kickstart. Gian, did I get you? Um, have you signed up for the January fast cap yet? Or do I?
No, and I don't know how to do that. So I was
Okay.
just saying that there's so many things. I'm not sure if I have my calendar
Yeah.
right.
All right. I will send you that link after we're done here.
Thanks.
All right. So when you send me documents, I get an email like this, just like your clients would. So it's kind of good for you to know. Everybody sees it, right? So you know what your clients are seeing. This is what they're going to
I don't
see.
I don't see anything.
Does anybody else see it?
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm, darn it.
Well, let's see if I open. So then you hit review signing. Tell me if you start seeing it, Lila. And you got to acknowledge to open it. Do you see the real estate brokerage in Washington?
No, I don't. Hmm,
Jan gave me a
very
thumbs up.
strange. Darn
I
it.
see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. Lila, maybe log out and log back in.
Okay.
Okay. We'll see you in a minute. All right. Rami, you sent me so you were saying that you got the email to sign it at the same time?
Yeah, so I put myself as I'm the agent and then the two
Yeah.
buyers with my email address, and I still got the emails anyway,
Yeah,
even though
well, you probably didn't set the order even, so you got to set the order and make me at the top of the order.
that's what it is. You are at
Okay.
the top, which is weird.
But you actually like I can be the top, but if you don't actually click the button that says set order, then it's still going to go to everybody at once. I'll try to,
Oh, maybe I missed a click.
yeah,
I'll take. Yeah, thank you.
yeah. It's okay. It's a practice one, so it didn't actually go to anybody, so that's good. All right, so initials on the real estate brokerage pamphlet, which I like. It's not technically this Authentisign code on here is going to prove that you gave it to them, but I'm anal. I like to put initials on mine, so I like that.
Thanks to the video, it popped up on my. I watched one of your other videos about skyslope and KV core, and then it recommended me to watch your BBSA video. So I watched it because I had no idea what the heck to do after I have the docs. Like, how
Yeah,
do I get people to sign it? But then I saw your hint
good.
about this.
Yeah, I just did that. That's the one I texted you guys about last week. I'm just like, I have a minute, so I'm going to do it. And anybody who wants to jump on a call with me while I do it can watch. Otherwise, I'll record it. So this is all, make sure you've all read this 4-page document because, I mean, you should read everything that you've sent your clients at least a few times. But it's clear and it's easy to understand and it's good language for using with your clients as well. All right, here's the buyer brokerage service agreement for Jane and John Doe in King and Snohomish counties for 180 days. All of that is great. EXP appoints Rami for an exclusive agency agreement. I do not recommend limited dual agency for brand new agents, so leaving those blank is perfect. Your agreement is for 2.5% of the purchase price or 4% if the seller is unrepresented. That's also great. The seller won't always cooperate. You can make it, you can change it if it won't work. But if the seller is unrepresented, it will be more work. So if you can manage 4% for unrepresented seller, that's what I put on my agreements.
What's the scenario where the seller would be unrepresented, Melanie?
On C is like a for sale by owner.
Okay.
So
Great.
you can do, B is dual agency, where you are representing both the seller and the buyer. But that's a legally tricky thing. Like that's what this initials are on this one up here at the top. Broker as limited dual agent. I would rather you only represent one side of the deal because until you know really well how to represent each of the sides individually, it's a really tricky legal thing to represent both of them legally at the same time. Like you can't spill any secrets. It's really hard to negotiate. Like it's a tricky deal. So if the people really want an agent, I would definitely recommend that you refer, send them to me and I'll represent the other side of the deal and I'll throw you a 25% referral fee. So you get paid on both sides of the deal, but you don't have the legal obligation to represent both sides well at the same time. But if they absolutely don't want representation, that's what this compensation C is. That would be a for sale by owner. And both Lila and Zach recently have done for sale by owners where they're representing the buyers and the sellers are technically for sale by owners and not represented. Okay. And it's more work because you've got to communicate differently with the seller and cover things that normally you would expect the seller's agent to take care of for you. So if you can get paid a little bit more, that's better. If you can't, you can't, and life goes on. Compensation expiration 60, that's normally what I would write. So if they go, see a house for you, I'm not doing that right now. They go see a house with you and your deal expires, your BBSA expires, and they buy that house within 60 days, you are still procuring cause and you would still get paid on that property. If they wait more than 2 months, you know, like their life has changed and something's probably going on and you're not as much procuring cause because it's been a while. I mean, you can put whatever dates you want in there, but 60 seems fair.
And is the CRM where you would keep track of the properties that you show? Or where do you do that?
You can do it in the CRM. You can totally do, you can save them in your MLS in baskets. I mean, really, it might be a while before you're really showing so many houses you can't keep track. Like I just tend to remember because I'm
Okay.
not super high production. But if you're super high production, then yeah, develop a system to keep track. The other thing too is going to be this expiration term. As soon as this form gets signed, put a reminder in your CRM at about 160 days that this is expiring. Because if you submit an offer with these clients at 181 days, you do not have a BBSA that is valid and you are not going to get paid. So note the expiration and don't let a BBSA expire on you without you knowing it's going to happen. BBSA being buyer brokerage services agreement.
Okay.
All right. I know this is a fake one, Rami, and I don't, you know, one way or the other, but I would encourage you to fill out buyer email address and buyer phone number. I know you're making it up, you know, like there's nothing to be embarrassed here. I'm just going through to say, you know,
Well,
fill in all the details if you can.
yeah, thank you. My at 1 a.m. my brain was seeing something not happening, but then it didn't click until you just said it.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised that the system did not include it, even though automatically, even though I have them set up as with an email address. I didn't have a phone number, but I did have an email
You
address.
probably set it up in their signature file, but you've got to set it up in the transaction file. It's a little bit different.
Oh, okay.
So, no, you can't have pie. Yeah, actually, yeah, you didn't have a slice last night. We're still on Thanksgiving pie at my house. All right. Again, it's practice, so I don't know if you would do it this way or not, but I would suggest not ever sending the purchase and sale agreement to get signed with a BBSA because legally you definitely want the BBSA to be signed and done before a purchase and sale agreement gets signed and done. Not saying you would have done it, like it's fine, but you know, when you're actually doing it, I'd much prefer to see them in two separate emails so that we can totally prove the BBSA was signed, sealed, and delivered before we looked at writing an offer.
I did not have one until I saw your video. That's when I was like, oh, I need to have one. So
Yeah.
that's why I included it. So yes,
Good.
I agree.
That's why I'm trying to do more videos. All right. Who can tell me why Rami is not getting paid?
I'm sorry, I just got back in. Can't
Rami
see
is
it.
not getting paid for his deal. Why is that?
Not dated?
I can't
what?
see it.
Is it not dated and signed?
Well, I mean, we're assuming it's set up for signed and dated.
Oh,
So that's not it.
See, I need.
This line
expires.
17, you need both numbers filled out.
Oh,
The seller has offered 2.5. You have not asked them to actually pay anything. They're not paying anything if you don't fill out this line. They have no obligation to pay it. So you need to fill out both spaces on this form 17. Does that make sense, everybody?
Mm-hmm.
You need to talk to your sister. Go away. You cannot have to go away. Sorry. So, and your BBSA is 2.5%. So you're going to ask for 2.5%. That matches. That's easy. That's not a big deal. But you need to fill out this right here.
Question.
Yeah.
So the BBSA says that the buyer has to pay me 2.5%, right? So why would what if the seller says no? Do I not get paid anyway?
Well, then, I mean, the buyer will have to pay you 2.5%, but a lot of times the buyers are fully, I mean,
Yeah.
the buyer would be expecting the seller to pay this. And
Mm.
if all of a sudden you're asking them to come up with it just because you missed a number, they may not have that extra 2.5%. Or it may mess up their financing, and their financing may not come through if all of a sudden they have to cough up an extra 2.5% they didn't expect. So if the buyer has 2.5% that they could pay you directly, you might still get paid. But chances are the buyer doesn't have that, and the whole deal is going to fall apart because the seller's not going to pay it. Does that make sense?
It does. It's in the weird world we're in after the settlement. I wonder how things will change moving forward.
So far, they haven't changed as much as people were fearing, but we'll see what happens going forward. But like I said, technically the buyer would be on
Can't
the
hear
hook for
you.
that 2.5%. What was
Sounds
that, Lila? Yeah, I don't know. I also would definitely encourage you to fill out all this information again. Title and escrow is going to love you if you actually fill out your buyer contact information. Again, you do that, on the form as you're filling out the form. It won't just be in the signature portion of it. Because that's how they then can get a hold of your buyer after you are in mutual acceptance. I did not look up the property that we are trying to buy. Let's see, what's the number? 2305251. 2551, is that what it was? No.
230.
5251. All right, let's look what Rami's buying here. Beautiful. All right, so the listing price is about 2.3. Rami is offering 2250. So a little bit below asking. It's been on the market for 40 days, so that's probably reasonable to try. The thing I was going to check is let's make sure that our appliances match. Dishwasher, garbage disposal, microwave, refrigerator, stove. Stove, refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave, garbage disposal. Yep, looks good. You click the wrong items here, they're responsible. Like if you clicked hot tub and there's no hot tub, they've got to go buy you a hot tub before closing. So you want to make sure that you are clicking the things that you mean to click. This is what I do all the time, guys. This is what I go through contracts like this. Nothing changed on the rest of the PSA. Financing addendum, conventional first with 22,000 down. Is that if it's 22,000, then we're just saying they have 22,000 available. If it's 3%, then I would suggest you click. I didn't do the math, but in general, click the 3%.
Oh, now it made sense. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was the extra for down payment did not, again, it was late at night. Okay. Yes, you're right. That was a
So
mistake.
I didn't do the math. I don't even know what it is, but the reason
This
you
was
would click and do 3% instead of the 22.5, even if that's 3%, is because if you do the inspection and something changes and you lower the price by $10,000, then you're either still going to have to give this down payment, or you have to do an addendum. Or if it had just said 3%, then you can still just do a 3% down payment, and the dollar amount would change, but you wouldn't have to do an addendum. Does that make sense to people? Okay.
If something changes during the financing process, like they have to do 5% and they're going to do that, do you have to change this?
Yes. It's a term on the loan here that they're paying X amount down. So, I mean, there shouldn't be a problem to get the other people to sign it. But if you're changing the terms, you need to have that signed. Basically, if you're changing anything that was signed in the contract, then they have to sign when you change it.
Okay.
What
Weird.
is not listed on here is who the lender is. So
Okay.
that's where, let's see, here's another thing that you needed an A or B here. It's A if neither are selected, but again, I like to check boxes. Seller's notice to perform within 21 days. And then appraisal will not be waived or financing contingency will not be waived if appraisal is less than sell price. Those should be marked with a 21-day in here.
Yeah, the instructions weren't clear what to do, so I figured I wasn't sure what to do with this one, but
Yep.
thank you.
You're good. So, yeah. So, you do have a few days to figure out who your lender will be. If they wanted, they should have a pre-approval letter, obviously, before you ever write an offer. They are totally pre-approved. But if they decide to switch lenders in the first couple days after mutual acceptance, they can do that, which I don't like. I think it's annoying, but they can do it because it's not a signed part of the contract. So, just the stuff that you need permission to do is the stuff that was signed in the contract. My own buyers on one of my last deals, they switched from a mortgage broker that I liked to BECU right after we went under mutual acceptance against it went fine, but I don't like using banks. I prefer to use mortgage brokers because they close on time more often. So I wasn't happy about the fact that they switched, but it was up to them. And it was within the terms of the loan stuff. So you're not asking them to pay anything for closing, so that's great. All right. Everything else is pretty optional clause. So we checked the first one, good. We do not check the second one because the default is a title insurance that is better than both of these. So if you check one of these boxes, you are downgrading your client's title insurance. Seller cleaning, that's up to you. That can be, obviously this house is nice and it's not going to be a big deal. But if you're looking at more of a investor type property, this might be a negotiation thing. Like, leave your crap. You don't have to clean the house. That might really be a blessing to sellers who are leaving if your buyers are willing to take that on. Personal property, check the box. I don't even know what the option, once closing happens, what's left there is yours. I don't really know what the alternative is if you don't check the box.
The instructions are whatever you're right, whatever stays in the house is like the new owner's property now, but it sweetens the deal if you uncheck that box, apparently, because then they can keep their junk in the house and you're responsible for cleaning it up as a buyer.
You're responsible for cleaning it up regardless.
No, as a buyer, if I buy your house, and if you keep your junk in your house, that makes it better for you because you don't have to worry about dumping fees and all that stuff and moving, So apparently, if it's a hot market.
And how do you enforce it if they don't clean the house? If that's checked, seller cleaning, and they don't.
You can delay closing Like that's part of what the final walkthrough would be.
Mm.
So you can double check and you can delay closing if they have not done it as asked. But it is one of those things like at that point in time, is it really worth delaying close for a couple days because they didn't sweep everything out?
Yeah, and if you're the buyer, you're usually on a timeline because of financing
Yeah.
here.
So it's one of those like basically you're giving a preference. And if you want to be hard-nosed, you can enforce it, but you're punishing yourself as the buyer as much as you're going to punish the seller. Utilities are connected. Yeah, there's probably electricity too, so that probably could have been checked, but
And this one is for new construction. Yeah, I don't know. I assume that I'm going to be talking to the construction person and get this info, or they will fill it in.
is it it's brand new construction? Okay. Yeah, so then I would talk to maybe the buyer's agent or the listing agent ahead of time and ask them how to fill that out. You could even, did you double check if it was on the supplements maybe?
Yeah, seems like that's
It's
on a
not.
disclosure, right? Feel like I had to put that on my seller's disclosure.
So this should be in your deal right here. They're going to want this signed all the way through. So in your offer, just so you know, before you would send it, you'd have to definitely do this.
It is.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I
just
put a
haven't
lot
got
of
all the way
the, and
through.
I had to go and manually put. I know because it was painful to add the initial.
It is a pain to add all those. All right, I just haven't. I looked at it briefly when I got out of bed.
No problem.
All right. You don't need evidence of funds and a financing contingency. Evidence of funds is for like if it's a cash purchase. So your pre-approval of loan is basically your evidence of funds.
Okay, that makes
So
sense.
you wouldn't need this one. It's one or the other 90% of the time. You don't technically need the title contingency either because that's part of the financing contingency also. Like you will not get your financing without clear title. It doesn't hurt anything to have the title contingency in here, but it's just redundant. Just so you know.
You only need that if it's a cash deal.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's a cash deal where financing's not already going to make sure it's good. Same with appraisal. Like a bank is going to do an appraisal. It's part of the financing, so you don't need an appraisal contingency because it's covered in what we're doing already.
That definitely saves up some forms to.
Yeah, it just makes it a little shorter, especially when you get a reader who wants to read every word. They'll save you, 20 minutes of sitting there while they look at it. Inspection contingency. Sewer may be checked, should probably normally be the default unless it's septic, but be able to check everything. 10-day inspection is good, and that's going to be calendar days. And seller request, this is where the seller gets to choose what they want to see on the inspection. The default is they don't see anything unless they put in writing they want to see something. So this is the one thing that the seller gets to check and choose when they sign the offer that doesn't actually mean it's a counter offer. Like this is the part they get to fill out and it doesn't make it a counter offer. Default days on things. You got a little 10 days prior to closing, depending on what all you need to fix. That's might be a lot, but it definitely makes things safer to make sure it's done.
That's why I put this in there because it says 3 days is the default. It's like, man, I want to have more time.
Yeah, 3 3 days is really close. So that's definitely a good plan.
That's because the closing is on the 31st.
Mhm.
So there's less than a month. So I was like, I want to move
Yeah,
things fast, but I want
you
to
do
be
have a
ready.
fast turnaround in the way you set this up. So, and that's holiday time. So what is the 31st even? Tuesday. So really everything's going to have to be done on that Monday, which, yeah, so that's good. Just looking at dates. So you do not need a survey contingency generally, unless there's some special reason for it.
The reason this triggered is that in the seller disclosure, they said, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. In the is the survey, is there an encroachment? Is there whatever? And it's like, okay, let's put this in, but if
That's
it's not,
normal. If there's usually, I mean, if they want to do a survey, they can do a survey. So it's always an option. If there's any stuff on title, that's going to show up. But an encroachment, I guess you'd have to do a survey. It's unusual to see this in a purchase and sale offer.
and I was practicing.
Yeah, so that's why I'm telling you, you can do it. That's why it's here. It's totally an option. If you want a survey, do a survey. Although I would call some people probably before you put it in here, because I think surveyors are not easy to get right now. I'm not sure you'd really get them in and a report back in your timeline. So you'd either, need to find one and double check that they can actually get it done in your timeline, or else you'd need like a 2 or 3 month closing that would match their timeline if it's going to be contingent on the survey. Otherwise, you can just recommend to your buyer that they get one after closing to double check everything's good. And if there's an encroachment or something, they'll have to deal with it. It just depends how concerned they are and how much of a deal breaker it is. So if somebody's a foot over and they're going to have to fight with the neighbor about it, does that mean they don't want the property, or are they willing to do that fight and they can just worry about it afterwards? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Wiring fraud, good job. This is it. But so this is an EXP one. It really only needs to go to our client. So again, if it wasn't a practice one, I would suggest making this one a third email. So I do so I would do an Authentisign transaction desk for the buyer agreement with the P1. Then I would do one for the purchase and sale agreement. And then I would do a third one for the pamphlets and things that EXP gets and skyslope gets, but the listing agent doesn't really care about. So I would put this on the listing agent doesn't care about signing document. Same with this ABA, the affiliated business, has nothing to do with the listing. So this would go in a third signing document for me. You should fill in this property and date. You can do it from transaction desk and drag over a date box and drag over a text box and put the property address in there. But then you got names and dates, good. Legal description has initials, good job. So then this would go with the offer, just to clarify. Seller disclosure. So for buyer purposes, ooh, this is not good. Interesting. Oh, okay, so new construction gets to skip some. I'm just not used to seeing so many blanks. Recorded plot map. So that's going to be in the title stuff that you look at. So I got some notes there. Buyers have 3 lines down here they can sign. With every signing, you are subsequently giving away more of your buyer's rights. So in a normal situation, this is perfect. Just sign you received it, and that's enough. in super competitive, crazy situations, buyers start to sign more things where they waive the right to revoke an offer and they waive a right for a completed disclosure statement. So if the seller skipped parts of it that they're not allowed to skip parts of it, they need to fill those out and we will get that information. Unless your buyers had signed this where they waived that information. Just so you guys understand what that means.
I'm sorry, I have to go to the
Yep.
meeting, and I will watch the video after.
Okay. We've only
yeah.
got 3.5 minutes left before our call is going to shut off. So you're not missing much. Have a
I'll just-
good kickstart and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So Rami did a really good job on this. FERPTA, this was in their supplements, not a illegal. So then because he is not a non-resident alien, the buyers do not have to sign this. So he did that right. It's just included, his buyers didn't have to do anything. 22K, identification of utilities. He should have put the date here and added the buyer's names. It doesn't do it automatically because it was a document and not a form from what they had online already. So they have this filled out. He initialed it. Good. Okay. And then here is that addendum that again was in the supplements. So he should have added a date and he should have added the buyer's names here on top. Then we've got buyers, initials and dates on all the pages. You definitely want to make sure you kind of look through these with your client. Request for warranty service. So it looks like this is for future use, so you know how you're requesting warranty services. So this isn't something he would have needed to sign now. Sewage capacity charge. So this is, looks like a, yes, this is a notification that they must have had on the listing about an assessment. So, yeah. So that was, it's one of their things here that he included, which is good, that talks about the extra fee for the sewer capacity charge. Every 3 months for a total of 15 years. So there's every 3 months, there's a sewer capacity charge for 15 years to pay for this sewer capacity charge. These are the sorts of things. So they're going to have to just pay extra on their sewage bill for 15 years.
Does it say what amount it is?
Probably, but we've got less than a minute left, actually, everybody. So it's going to go away. But this is, okay, that's the last one. On the PSA, you pick up here who pays assumed by buyer or prepaid in full at closing. So because he picked assumed by buyer, his buyers will pay that. If he picked prepaid in full, the builder would have paid that prior to at closing.